It's not a walkthrough, playthrough, review, anything like that. It's just me playing the game badly so you can see what it looks like. Okay then, this is Super Road Blaster on the SNES. This is brought to you, is dedicated to my supporters on Patreon, because without their support I could not have afforded the SD to SNES cartridge that I'm using to make this video and play this game. This was not ever released on the SNES originally, SNES, Super Nintendo, call it what you will, because it just plain couldn't be. It was a Laserdisc based game originally in the arcades. I believe they released a version of it on the Mega CD. But you needed some kind of optical disc drive to play it, because it's basically a load of full motion videos and then basically press a button quickly and it responds and you either die or you don't. I'm going to have the volume down quite low because Content ID is a thing, and I still worry about Content ID. Okay. I now don't know what's happening. Let's try again. The game is basically one great big selection of cutscenes. So I don't know how YouTube will treat it. Come on now. Are we playing? We are playing. So here we... Oh bollocks. Alright, I'm going to reboot this. Edit. Okay, let's try again. So it's going to tell me to go right. We'll go right, and we lived. Oh, but I didn't go left. You got the arrow that points in a direction and says go this way or you're going to die. But you got to be quick and be paying attention. And it is really, it's a memory test. And it's kind of ridiculous. I've got to go right, haven't I? Oh, brake. Okay, that's that button. You got to pay attention. Get off. Oh, yeah. Oh, that was the brake. A is the turbo button. Oh. Right, am I going to go... Right, turn right. Very much a memory test. Turn right again. Right again. Now, is it going to be turbo? It is turbo. Turbo again. Which way? Which... Right. Left. Oh, I don't know which way it's going to tell... Oh bollocks, I hit the brake. It's going to be turbo. More turbo. More turbo. Oh crap. Oh god. Left. Wow, we're still going. It's glitchy as hell, but... it works, which is... God, how am I not running them over? Whoops. Because I'm running into a building instead. This was requested by Down the Rabbit Hole Kevin, I think. Because I didn't know about this, but when I mentioned that I got this SD to SNES thing, he said, give that a go. Or he'd like to see me give it a go, so yeah. Do check. Oh bollocks. Brake and left. Broke my car. This is going to be turbo, isn't it? Yeah. But I can't remember now. Response time is a factor in this. Please respond quickly. Spot that film. Right, in it, yeah. Right again. Now it's going to be left and brake, isn't it? Oh. Brake and left. Oh God, okay. Oh, this car does like to slide around. Yeah, thanks for pointing, mate. It's funny because, oh crap. In terms of gameplay, it's very limited, but it's fun. And music is, I'll have to mute the music there, or just fast forward that bit. Yeah, so I don't think I need to play anymore. I'm not going to get any better. It is a memory test. It's not really gameplay at all. It's a reaction time and memory test thing. I like it. Thank you to Down the Rabbit Hole for suggesting it, and thank you to my Patreon supporters for enabling me to buy the thing that allows me to play it on a real SNES. The only other way is on a an emulator, because this was never released, and because it physically wasn't possible when cartridges were the main media format. It's impressive. Whoever it is who did this, like it's homebrew effectively, very well done. Okay, thank you for watching. Hello, today's Q&A question is from Hugh Morgan 74, link to his channel down there. He asks, Q&A, memorable gigs, shows, concerts you care to tell a tale about, please? Okay. Gigs, concerts. Been to lots of those, lots and lots. Trying to remember them all is difficult. I don't really have a tale about any of them, but I can tell you which are my favourites or fix in my memory the most. I saw The Fall. I've seen The Fall twice actually. Once at Northampton Road Menders. They were doing, I think it was the infotainment scan, and I was kind of losing interest in The Fall at that time. It was like post-Bricks Smith era, and they had changed. They were getting more into slightly higher production values, and the songwriting I thought was not as good. Just the music was not as good, but there was one point in it where, you know, you're at a gig and it just gels and everything works and you get in the zone and into the song, and that happened. And it was one of the last songs of the gig, probably because it was the strongest song on the album, and it was The Great League of Bald-Headed Men. Only Marquis Smith could even come up with that as a title, and that was great. But the other Fall gig I went to was at Sadler's Wells Theatre in London, and I went to that with a couple of friends just on the off chance that we could get tickets on the door, because we hadn't bought them in advance. It was just like a spur of the moment thing. Wait and see if there are any unclaimed tickets, if you like, where they've been paid for but the people are a no-show. It gets to a certain point where they will let people waiting on the door buy them. So we did that. One of the funny bit was we're queuing there at the door, and this oik comes up to me and me mates and says, and we're at the front of the queue, and they said, so are you queuing for tickets? And my friend looked at him and with a completely straight face said, no, we're waiting for a train. And the chap was like, oh, okay then, and walked off. And we were just like, we laughed. We got in, we got seats. Quite a lot of people didn't get seats, and it was a weird gig because they were doing the I Am Curious Orange ballet with the, is it Mark Clark? Something Clark Theatre Company, who were a kind of a little bit on the avant-garde side. Now we were at the back, and my eyesight is not great, but I swore blind that when the female dancers did that, their whatever it was they were wearing, which was kind of strange, would ride up and their boobs were hanging out of the bottom. We were a long way back, but I was like, I'm sure that's happening. Years later I have seen video of this thingy, I don't know, I can't remember it. I don't think it is Mark, but something Clark Theatre Company or whatever. And well, nudity is a part of what they do. There's like them doing their ballet stuff with their asses out the back of their leggings. So I imagine what I thought I saw, I actually did see. But the highlight of that gig was, I can't remember what song it was. It was at the start of a song, Marquis Smith coming down from on high, sitting inside a giant O. Now you've got to be aware that Marquis Smith is like a hard-drinking, was I should say, a hard-drinking, hard-smoking, no-nonsense, call a spade, cannot stand bullshitters or just, he was a northerner through and through, and here he is coming down in this giant O, and I was highly amused. So that's a gig that sticks in my mind. I mean, the biggest, I didn't see many really big bands. I've seen U2 a couple of times. First time I saw them was in 1985. They were touring The Unforgettable Fire, which is my favourite U2 album. And then I saw them again in 94, and they were doing the Zooropa tour, which was mind-boggling. I actually, for the music, preferred the 1985 gig, which was at Milton Keynes Bowl, where the Zooropa thing was at Wembley Stadium. The Zooropa thing was mind-boggling because of the screens, giant screens and fancy arty stuff going on, and it was just mind-boggling. But the songs in 85 were better. I like the Zooropa stuff. I like U2 all the way up to Pop. It's whatever they did after that that I'm like, pfft, yeah. But yes, they were good gigs. Other gigs that stick, I mean, I can name the bands and it won't mean anything to you, I think. Gallon Drunk. I saw Gallon Drunk at a little theatre in Wolverton in Milton Keynes. They're not a band that ever got anywhere. They didn't get big. They released 2 albums and then disappeared. And the first album, You, the Moonlight, the Music, I think it's called, something like that. A fantastic album, but it in no way captures the energy that they produced live. Live, they were staggering. I can't even bring into word, put into words how incredible they were live. I do not dance, ever, not ever, and I could not just stand still to them, so there was some, like, swaying from side to side. Yeah, they were that good. I've seen The Damned a couple of times, once at Wembley Stadium for the Amnesty International gig in 1988. They were the best band at that do. But better was Woughton Campus in Milton Keynes. I was right near the front, and the lineup was not the traditional Damned lineup. You had Dave Vanian on vocals, you had Captain Sensible on guitar, and he is not recognised as a virtuoso guitarist. He is not done any justice whatsoever because he is epic. He was playing the guitar behind his head. I don't think he was playing it with his teeth, but he got it behind his head, and he was playing the most incredible stuff. He's just, and he plays the crowd. I mean, Dave Vanian might be the front man, but Captain Sensible One is the one who interacts with the audience, and he's fantastic. And he probably isn't anymore, he was a subscriber to this channel, which chuffed the hell out of me. I sent him a PM, DM, call it what you like, just thanked him for subscribing and said I was a fan of his work because I love The Damned and I like his solo stuff as well. And he actually wrote back and said, well, thank you, and he was really enjoying my videos because he grew up with the Commodore 64 and the Game Boy, so I was chuffed. Also with the band at that time was Patricia Morrison, who is more well known as the bassist with the Sisters of Mercy for the Floodland album. She was there on bass, and all I can say about her is incredibly tall, absolutely bloody gorgeous. Yeah, it's like, where do you look? And Rat Scabies was not on drums. You see, they've gone through loads of different bassists, so you expect to have... There is no definitive bass player with The Damned, but you expect Rat Scabies on drums, and he wasn't, so that was a little bit disappointing, really. It's kind of like The Damned Phantasmagoria era. To me, it was their biggest selling album, but that wasn't really The Damned. You had Dave Vanian, you had Rat Scabies, but there was no Captain Sensible, and you can't have The Damned without Captain Sensible. And it didn't sound like The Damned, it didn't, and by the time they did anything, in no way did that feel like The Damned. And then they just sort of drifted off into oblivion for quite a while. And while they've released albums since then, who's even heard them? I haven't. Well, no, I tell a lie. I've sort of listened to some online and thought, not interested in that. That doesn't do it for me at all. It's kind of rock and roll. Yeah, but their gig at Wolfton Campus was great. Other gigs, there was an 80s revival thing just outside Worksop in Clumber Park that featured Tony Hadley, he was alright, Martin Fry from ABC, he was not my cup of tea, but the one who actually was like lower down the headlining thingamajig was gone blank now. Howard Jones. Now I like Howard Jones. Well, I like Howard Jones' first two albums anyway, Humans Lib, and I have completely forgotten what the second one's called. I'm doing well here, but I like those two albums. But it was like all the while you're waiting, because I grew up with these songs. I know them like the back of my hand, even if I can't remember the album titles, even though I've got them and had them for decades. But you're just waiting, and it's like, I know this song, I know this song, I know this song. Here's one from his latest album. I've never heard this one and don't care. I know, but all the way you're just waiting for What Is Love, which he played last, and you would expect that, and it's just like major waves of nostalgia pouring all over you, and I was in tears. Just, it's like, Andrea looked at me and was like, what's up with you? And I'm like, I can't even tell you. Awesome. I've got tears now. Just, it's one of those moments. Yeah. Other gigs. I went to a lot of small gigs, unsigned bands, local bands. There was a club I used to go to called the Counterpoint, which was previously called the Compass Club, and I saw a lot of bands there, and it had a lot of local bands. There was a band that was not local, who actually, I did find them. They've got some material on YouTube, and I don't know if they've got stuff from the era that I saw them in, because they went for quite a while. It was a band called Click Click, who I had never heard of at the time, but I saw them and I just remember being blown away. It was sort of semi-industrial-esque, techno-ish. The singer was just kind of mesmerizing. He had this manner on stage that I can't really explain, but he would... You were transfixed. I was transfixed by this guy. He just... You couldn't take your eyes off him. And he sang in a way that was kind of robotic-ish. I couldn't understand a word he was singing. He was quite low in the mix, as I remember, or maybe he just sang in a way that it was fragmented, but the whole thing was unlike anything I had ever seen live, or probably even heard, and I was just like, this is great. Never heard of them again after that until I found them on YouTube recently, but I've not heard anything by them on YouTube that in any way makes me feel the way I felt when I saw them then. I've not seen anything and gone, my God, which is how I felt at the time. But that is one that sticks in the mind. But bands that used to play there, the little local Milton Keynes bands, there were 3 that I saw dozens of times. No, you know, it's like if they played, I was there. And I made a lot of friends going to those gigs, because there was a local music scene in Milton Keynes, and it was always the same people going. You know, if this band were playing, and there, like I said, there were the 3 bands. There was The Final Solution. They were basically like pub rock. It was just a guitar band. If they had a sound that was remotely like anyone, they were compared to The Cure. They were in no way as talented as The Cure. They were a bit rough and ready, and then they kind of did a studio demo tape that was a bit polished, and honestly it was just lacking in life. And it was like, yeah, we'll just listen to the bootlegs that we recorded ourselves at the gigs, because we like had a tape recorder in our pocket or something. Their gigs were fun. It's like, sometimes they would do a gig and it would go on for 2 hours. I used to drink at the Volts Bar in Stony Stratford, and they would have bands on a Sunday night, and frequently it would be 2 of these 3 bands. One of them didn't. I'll tell you about them in a minute. You know, tiny little pub, not much bigger than the room I'm living in, with the band in the corner by the window, and they were loud. They were really bloody loud. Couldn't even name one of their songs now. Not a clue. No, I can remember one. It's called Filled with Fear. But the vocalist who was announcing the song was pissed out of his brain, I think, and he introduced it as Filled with Beer. I remember that. Yeah, they were good. Then there was another band called... Well, the name varied from week to week, depending on the lineup, because the lineup varied. But there was your main singer, the bass player, they were always the same. The drummer varied. They were at their best when they didn't have a drummer at all, but they had a drum machine. They were called Lex Wilkinson's Death Grip. It varied, Lex Wilkinson's this, that, the other, all sorts of things. But generally, if you were talking about them to anyone, they were Lex Wilkinson's Death Grip. And they were fantastic. In terms of when they were on form compared to when the Final Solution were on form, Lex Wilkinson's Death Grip were better and more stylistic. They had a better angle. The thing with them was they looked like, in the way they presented themselves, their presentation was Sisters of Mercy. And I'm talking Wayne Hussey era Sisters of Mercy, or pre-Wayne Hussey even. That kind of era. The kind of almost cowboyish goth thing. Not straying into the realms of Fields of the Nephilim. And I saw them once as well. I say saw, you couldn't really see through the dry ice, but they were good. Anyway, but the sound was not... There was a goth thing going on, but the sound was more like The Fall, and that was down to the bass lines. It was like you got Sisters of Mercy drum machine when they were good and weren't wasting their time with a drummer who just could not keep time. When they had a real drummer, they were not good. when they had a drum machine, they were great. So what was I saying? Yes, it was like The Fall with a drum machine and Andrew Eldritch-esque vocalist who he was charismatic and funny. He had this dry sense of humour. I met him actually. I got to. I mean, they were only a little band, but I did get to speak to him once or twice or something. And when you're a teen, and I was, it didn't matter that this band in front of you was not big and famous. They were the entertainment. They were the talent. You were enthralled. So to get to speak to the singer was something. They were cool. The third band was a band called Claire. I don't know why. There was no one in that band called Claire that I'm aware of. I can't remember the name of the actual singer. And I say singer, when I say singer, I use that term very, very, very loosely because he didn't sing. He kind of screamed in a fairly tuneless manner. Music is an interesting way of describing the noise that they made. They got played by John Peel twice. They did a Peel session because he heard their demo and he was like, this is great. And you know, they did a session and he played it twice, which says he liked them. The thing that was notable about them, apart from the singer who would just be appearing to be in agony and screaming, was they had two drummers. Did they have two? No, they had three drummers. They had two full drum kits. And then another drummer sort of somewhere else on the stage, kind of front and centre-ish, without a full drum kit. I don't know if it was just a tom-tom or something or other. But then they had metal percussion as well. One or two people hitting large chunks of metal like road signs with hockey sticks. And this was interesting. They were very interesting to watch. Much of the time you were watching, you know, you're in a darkened place. Here are these strange people making a cacophony of rhythmic noise and screaming, hitting road signs with hockey sticks and just looking and sounding like, whoa. And of course you're generally pissed out of your brain at the time, which helps a lot. Yeah, those were the days. I miss all of that greatly. In terms of going out on the town, having fun, that was the best time of my life. I had good friends, I had a tolerance for alcohol that I only wish I had now, and I saw a lot of fantastic bands. I do miss all that. I have fantastic memories. I've seen so many gigs, I've forgotten a great many of them. And while I've seen some bigger bands, my favourite memories are of the smaller ones that no one else has ever heard of. They were cool. Okay, that's... I could go on for hours and hours and hours, but I'm not gonna, because it's going to take a while to upload this. So, thank you for the question, and thank you for watching. As I say quite often, if you've got a question that you would like answering in a video like this, leave your question in the comments below. Start your question with 4 Q&A so that I know not to just answer it in the comments. Okay, thank you for watching.
So, is he starting some kind of cookery show? It says something here about having pastry on. Pies? I like pies.